All right. Welcome back into another episode of Jake's Takes. And this one is very different than one I've done before. I'm launching this little series for the college football season because I'm going to a lot of college football games, and we're doing like mini podcasts, kind of breaking down the games that I go to and stuff like that. So I mentioned it in the podcast on Monday, going through my week one reactions, that I was in West Lafayette this weekend. I was at Purdue University with my guy, Drew Comer, and Drew is with me today. So Drew, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me again. I know we just did one a couple weeks ago on the MLB season, but it's good to be back.
Yeah, no, I mean, I had a blast. I had a blast at Purdue. I went to come visit you last year. We went to the Indiana State game. That was kind of a blowout. So
Yeah.
we really tried to pick a better game this year, and boy, we got a much better game. Fresno State came into this game, unbelievable game. Fresno ended up winning this game 39-35, and I mean, we talked about it before the season. I remember like going through games to come to, and I remember you asking me like, "Why are you so interested in this Fresno team?" And I was like, I really like this team. They're really good in the Mountain West. The Mountain West isn't a great football conference, but boy, were they impressive in this one. Unbelievable. What did you see from Fresno going into this game?
Yeah. Yeah, so before we get started, I just want to say last year Purdue's opening game was against Penn State on Thursday night.
Yeah.
And we gave up a touchdown. Sean Clifford threw with 58 seconds left. And going to this Fresno game, we were up. And guess what happened? We lost on a 58-second left touchdown in the game, and that cost us again. So, but no, I really like Fresno. I mean, obviously it's a tough loss, but we saw Miley Keene throw for 4 touchdowns, and I think he was a transfer. I don't know too much about him, but he had himself quite a game. And then honestly, the biggest thing that I took away was the flow. Fresno held the ball for most of the game, and they were able to shut Purdue's run game down, which last year wasn't great. But Devin Mockabee, the running back, a walk-on, is a great talent, and they kind of held him in check. And so, that really helped. And Purdue bringing in Ryan Walters from Illinois, he was their defensive coordinator over there. I honestly was expecting a little bit more of a defensive game, and we gave up, I think 4 or 5 touchdowns, and that's a little more than I would have liked to see out of Ryan Walters' defensive-oriented, coaching staff. But on the other end, on the offensive side, Hudson Card, a great transfer from Texas, subbed in a few games when Quinn Ewers went down. And I think he threw for like 250 yards, 254 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, which is kind of exactly what I expected out of him. So I like him. He's a good talent. Deion Burks, one of our receivers, had himself quite a game on the opening play, opening drive that Purdue had in the first quarter. And, so overall, the offense looked great. It's just on the other end defensively, which is where I would have liked to see a little bit more. So,
Yeah, I mean, adding on to that, like looking at Fresno with Mikey Keene coming in. I mean, he had himself a sensational game, just like you were saying. The way he was able to throw like out of the pocket was just incredible. He
yeah,
created plays that were just unbelievable throughout the whole game. I mean, like Fresno, they've always been a very good offensive team. Their quarterback last year just got drafted in the NFL draft. I think he was around 5th round. Jake Heener might be his name. I don't know his last name, but I know his name was Jake. I mean, I got to know that. But talking about Mikey Keene, like this guy was just very talented with the way he was throwing the ball. I mean, 366 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 pick. That's just an incredible stat line.
yeah,
And if you're looking at the full game and you're looking at one stat that would be kind of eye-opening to you, and I think that would be third downs compared to
yeah,
each team. Fresno in this game was unbelievable on third down. Their third down efficiency, they were 11 for 17 on third downs. That is just sensational. And I thought that was a big thing in the Florida State game last night against LSU. I mean, Like Florida State converted every single third down. It's just so important to win games and converting those third downs. And I think really helping with that is having a dynamic quarterback. And this guy was on fire. One thing I was impressed about Fresno also, I thought their D-line was fantastic. Maccabee couldn't do anything. And Purdue struggling to develop that run really hurt them. Because if you look at it, Purdue literally, they scored 28 points. They had a kick return touchdown too. So it's like, their offense wasn't crazy good, but their defense was really rough. And I think Fresno really moving at that fast pace kind of got them off guard, and they weren't ready for it. Fresno was also able to use the run game a lot. Their guy, Elijah Gillum, had 20 carries for 93 yards and was flat out fantastic. Their other running backs weren't able to do much. Malik Sherrod had 8 carries for 17 yards. He had a touchdown, but wasn't great. So like having a guy that was able to get some rushing yards really helped the offense because it took a little bit of pressure off Keene, but Keene didn't really need the pressure off of him. He was just flat out sensational. So looking at it in Fresno's perspective, they're going to be very dangerous. But looking at it for Purdue, I like what you said about Hudson Card. This guy is very talented. I think he's going to do some good things here. 254 yards, 2 touchdowns. Not a great completion percentage, but I think that's a solid game. You didn't turn the ball over. He was pretty good. And Maccabee started waking up near the end of the game. He had a big fourth quarter, 16 carries, 60 yards in that game. So looking at it that way, if you're Purdue, this is a very tough loss because it's a winnable game at home. Right. And we're going to go through kind of their schedule and talk about what to expect from them in the future. But, being at Purdue, I was so impressed with the environment. The environment's so cool there, dude. I'm kind of jealous that you get to go to so many football games because I could only imagine the Penn State game you were talking about last year. Unbelievable environment and in a great close game too. It was just sad to see the fans exiting after the at the end when Card and them missed that fourth down. It was sad to see that, but the environment there is really cool, man.
Yeah, and it's a completely new Purdue football team. Their coaching staff is all transition. And last year, we had Aiden O'Connell, Charlie Jones, Payne Durham, as that trio on offense, and obviously all of them are in the NFL now. So we really had to turn it over. And Maccabee was one of those guys from last year that we kept around. Deion Burks had himself, like I said earlier, 4 receptions, 152 receiving yards. Great game. I'm really excited to see what he can do this year. But, like I mentioned earlier, it's tough to see the defense and giving up 4 passing touchdowns from Mikey Keene. And so, I'm hoping going forward that they can watch film, go over it, and, get the defense adjusted a little bit because this is kind of what we expected out of Walters is just this defensive-oriented team. And he brought in a lot of coaching staff that's really focus on that defensive end, and we didn't really see that out of this game. So,
yeah, a lot of expectation there. But again, first game, you saw a lot of miscommunication on coverages, especially on those third downs. So hopefully they can get that adjusted. And they're going to have a tough schedule to get that adjusted. So let's go through their schedule real quick. Again, this is a mini podcast, so we're going to kind of keep it short. But they got Virginia Tech next week. What are you thinking about that game? I kind of want to preview that a little bit. What do you think?
I think if anyone listening here has seen the Virginia Tech entrance, I think I showed you, Jake, but that Virginia Tech road game is one of the toughest to play. And Virginia Tech is a decent program, but just the environment there, it's going to be a tough game. And so I think they're, talent-wise, I think they're pretty even. I think that road game is going to be a true test of, what can this Purdue football team do? And so I'm not sure what to take away. I think Virginia Tech sneaks away just because it is a tough road game. And after seeing, what we just saw, playing Fresno, that's going to be tough to adjust going into that road game in Virginia. But that's another game that I'm a little worried about.
Yeah, the line's 3.5 for favored by Virginia Tech, which makes sense. Virginia Tech won their game. Their quarterback had a pretty good game. Wells had 251 yards, 3 touchdowns. Let's see who they played real quick. They played Old Dominion, so not really much to kind of look at. They won 36-17. So it will be interesting. It's kind of like Purdue Purdue got kicked in the mouth. They just did. Like, I think they expected to win that game, and it going away from them near the end, it's killer. So I could see this Purdue team really bouncing back strong. I think they're going to bounce back strong and really have, like, fix some defensive issues, and I think Card's pretty good. I like Card a lot.
I like Card too.
I just don't see anything with Virginia Tech these past couple of years that have impressed me so much as to say their home field advantage is what's going to get it done for them. Because I think this Purdue football team is solid. I don't think they're a horrible football team. They just play in a tough Big Ten. It's just the truth.
Right.
And they have some tough out-of-conference games too, which we'll get into. So I actually think Purdue will win this game. But let's get into some of the other games. So they play Syracuse at home, which you are pumped for this game. You're really excited because this is their night game. So talk to me a little bit about this one.
Yeah, so we played Syracuse last year on the road, and that was another tough game because I think we gave up a game-winning score with 3 seconds left. And so that's kind of another one that I look back at and I'm like, oh, that's, just like Penn State is another game we could have had. But I think we take this one. I mean, we got, first night game of the season, at home, revenge game from last year, Hudson Card's coming back, playing in West Lafayette for the second time. And I think we take this one at home from Syracuse.
I agree 100%. Like, I think Purdue, a lot of those guys have been thinking about that Syracuse game all year this year. I mean, it was a tough loss for them then, and I think they're going to come back with some revenge. It's a night game. I think they put it as the night game for that reason, to really bring it home and get it done. So I could see them winning that game for sure. And then you got a tough Big Ten opener, really tough Big Ten opener, home against Wisconsin. So talk to me a little bit about that one.
Yeah, Wisconsin's always a tough game, really, for whoever they play, and especially this year. They have a really good team. I think they're ranked 19th, and they'll adjust the rankings, after the season. But another really solid Big Ten team, and one that, looking ahead next year is they're kind of in the middle, bringing in all these Big Ten teams from the West. Is Wisconsin's good. I love Wisconsin, but what are they going to do? But in terms of this game, at home, I think it's going to be closer than people think. But I do think Purdue's going to, lose this game at home against Wisconsin.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just think Wisconsin's a little too good. The way they played against Buffalo was very impressive. They were able to use both their running backs very well. Both their running backs had 150 yards rushing, and that's 300 yards in total. They were flat out incredible against Buffalo, able to run the ball. And their quarterback, Maccabee, he's pretty good. He did not have a great game against Buffalo. I think he's going to have some talent, and he's just going to be a good quarterback. I actually have Wisconsin out of the West for me, so I'm very high on Wisconsin, so I would take Wisconsin in that game too. That leads into Illinois at home, and this is interesting. Ryan Walters' revenge game, so talk to me about this.
Yep, this is his revenge game, so I think Purdue takes this one at home just because Illinois doesn't have that program they did last year. I mean, last year we saw them, keep Michigan close, and that was out of the final scores 19-17, something low scoring. And they still have a good program over there, but losing Walters, they brought in a new coaching staff too. But Purdue at home this game, I just don't see them losing, especially with Ryan Walters. He knows that program in and out, and so he's going to do everything he can, to take that game at home. So.
Yeah, I mean, Illinois wasn't that impressive week one. They won on a game-winning field goal against Toledo, which a lot of Toledo fans were going crazy about because they wanted to win that game so bad. But, I mean, just not really impressive, barely winning that game. So I would take Purdue, too. I think Purdue, impressed me. I don't think the Fresno game should be a bad thing if you're a Purdue fan. Fresno's a good team, and they're going to do some good things in the Mountain West. I mean, yes, you should win that game, but Fresno's good. It's not a terrible loss. Right. Moving into the next week, you got at Iowa. Very tough one.
Yeah, this is another tough one. But Purdue always has an upset game, and I don't think they're beating Ohio State this year. I don't think they're beating Michigan this year. But I do see them taking this game on the road. And if Jonas Brown is listening, we lost 20-0 last year against Iowa, and him and I were texting before the game. And I just don't see them losing back-to-back years against Iowa. And that's a good program over there. I mean, Purdue just barely made the Big Ten championship over them last year. I think Iowa lost to, who was it, Nebraska? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think so.
um, to solidify Purdue's spot in the Big Ten championship. But I think this is out of all the games that would be considered an upset game. I think this is the one that Purdue can take, and it's on the road too. So it's going to be a test, another
Yes.
test, just like that Virginia Tech game on the road. But I think Purdue can sneak this one out and take the win. I think it's going to be a close, low-scoring game, but I think Purdue can take it.
Yeah, I mean this is 100% going to be a test. I'm going to trust Iowa with this one.
Okay.
I mean I wasn't too impressed with them. Jonah and I were texting a little bit about them, and he wasn't too impressed either. But they lost a lot on defense. It's kind of clear at that angle. But Cade actually looked pretty good. He did. So I'm going to trust it, and we'll see. We'll see 100%.
Right.
All right, let's move into the Ohio State game. So talk to me a little bit about that one.
Yeah, so that is going to be at home. Another very, very tough home game. And I just don't think Ohio State's beatable this year. I mean, they didn't look great in their opener, but usually they don't really like start off the season very well. I mean, we've seen the last couple of years they don't really have the strongest start to the season. But I think this is whatever the spread comes out to be. I think Ohio State takes it. I mean, this is like the sixth game of the year or something, and Ohio State's gonna be settled in. So, yeah, I think Ohio State's taking this one for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that, and we can kind of go through these a little faster. But I would say Ohio State probably takes it from Purdue, and if we go down the schedule, you got Nebraska next. That one to me that's a tough-ish game, but I could see Purdue sneaking that one out. Hudson Card, I think, is just a little more talented than what Nebraska's got going on offense. So I would say Purdue. Who do you think?
Yeah,
Quickly.
I agree with that.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So then going into Michigan, I don't think you guys could beat Michigan.
No.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
like I
Michigan's
said.
a little
Yeah,
too talented, and that would be
and
tough.
on the road too. Yeah, that's a tough
Yeah,
one.
it's a very tough.
Hello, hello. This is Giovanni Mosheri. You might have heard me a couple times on Jake's Takes. I am the sports media director of Oakland University's campus radio station, WXOU, and I've been the host for about 2 years of a weekly sports show called The Jomo Show, where we cover all of Oakland University athletics, including a weekly update on scores and highlights, as well as interviews with athletes or those otherwise involved in athletics. You can listen to The Jomo Show live on WXOU Thursdays at 6, or you can tune in to me afterwards on Spotify. It's The Jomo Show.
All right, let's move on to Minnesota, which is the next one. And Minnesota here, I think this could be a very interesting game for Purdue. Minnesota is very difficult in the fact that, it was a weird game against Nebraska, a very weird game. It was 13-10. A lot of people talked about it, and I talked about it on the week one show. But they switched from a more running offense last year to now they're moving into this passing offense. And I feel like they're just going to figure it out by the time they play Purdue and really have that solid pass offense figured out. I think their quarterback has a lot of talent, and I just like Minnesota's pieces more than I like Purdue. Minnesota had figured out the defense already. Like Nebraska couldn't do anything. Nebraska had a failed trick play where they scored on, and that was the only time they scored. So it's like, come on, you know. So I actually like Minnesota. I think what PJ Fleck's doing is really good, and I mean I think they're going to be competing for the West, and I think they're going to beat Purdue in this game. What do you think here?
So I actually have Purdue winning this one. We
Okay.
played Minnesota last year on the road, and beat them, and they lost Mo Ibrahim, their running back, who's in. I think he's on the Lions now, actually.
He might be.
Um,
Yeah.
but I think that this is gonna be another close game, kind of just like some other ones we talked about, and I think Purdue's gonna take it out. I love the home field advantage here.
Okay.
I think that Purdue fans will show out, and Minnesota is a good team. Everything that you just highlighted is very true. But I just think this home atmosphere against Minnesota in the middle of the Big Ten season, after coming off some losses because they played Michigan, it looks like the week before,
Yep.
and
Yep.
so they're going to have a rough couple games stretch. And I think that this is kind of their turnaround game. And I know Minnesota might have it figured out in their new passing scheme, but I think Purdue's going to take this one.
Yeah, that kind of leads into the last two, which is Northwestern and Indiana. And I mean, to be honest with you, like you play at Northwestern and then you play home against Indiana. I think you can win both those games.
Yeah.
Indiana didn't impress me against Ohio State, and I don't think Northwestern's very good. I just don't.
Yeah.
So, looking at it that way, I really think, that's going to have Purdue at 6-6. Where would you have Purdue?
Yeah, so I have them winning both of those games too, and obviously the Indiana game is a big rival game. We took it on the road last year, and Indiana's just not a football school. So, um, so yeah, I think we take those two games, and I think I have them at 7-5, just because of that Iowa win on the road gets me there. But yeah,
Yeah, that's a very solid Big Ten team, and going to that atmosphere, like, it was so much fun. It was a
yeah,
blast. Like, you guys have a great football atmosphere, and I know you guys in Indiana, you're more known for your basketball and stuff, but
hmm
Purdue, like, you guys just made the Big Ten championship. You came off an unbelievable year. You're losing a lot from that team. I think a 7-5 or a 6-6 year is not a bad thing. It's not the
no,
worst thing in the world. You
yeah,
guys are going to or be in a bowl game. If you could win a bowl game, that'd be great. I think that's pretty solid year, 100%.
yeah, I'm with you there. I think losing those pieces from last year definitely hurts a lot. But I think Ryan Walters is going to figure it out year one. And I know they have a good recruiting class coming in next year. So, we'll kind of see where this program goes. But yeah, I think they'll have a solid year. And obviously, just like, Spartan fans would say, including myself, there's always basketball to look forward to if all else goes wrong. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. All right, well, Drew, thank you so much for joining the podcast. This was a lot
Yeah,
of fun.
thanks for having me, man.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
this was a blast. I had a lot of fun at Purdue this weekend, and that game was a lot of fun. So it's kind of cool looking at it that way. So that's going to
Yeah.
conclude the first mini podcast in Jake's Takes, and we will be back at you later. Peace.